The date was August 19, 1942. In the dense jungle near Taivu Point on Guadalcanal, Second Lieutenant Jinjiro, EMI, recorded the profound shock shared by many Japanese soldiers in his diary. EMI and 916 other men from Colonel Kionao Ichiki's detachment had just landed in a nighttime insertion. The Japanese command had assured them the Americans numbered perhaps 2,000 poorly trained, easily frightened, and soft men, easily swept into the sea. Colonel Ichiki himself had dismissed all warnings, confidently declaring, "We will sweep them into the sea before sunrise." What these battle-hardened veterans from China did not know was that they were about to encounter not merely defeat an unthinkable concept since 1937, but a systematic demolition of every tactical assumption, every strategic concept, and every certainty that defined the Japanese way of war. The jungle itself would become an American weapon. The darkness, once the ally of the Japanese forces, would betray them. This transformation began on August 7th, when 11,000 United States Marines of the 1st Marine Division stormed ashore at Lunga Point, executing Operation Watchtower. Their objective: seize the nearly completed Japanese airfield, which they would rename Henderson Field. The island itself was a tropical hell of suffocating 90% humidity, swamp and disease malaria, dengue fever, dysentery, which would eventually disable more men than enemy action. After the American Navy suffered a devastating loss during the Battle of Savo Island on the night of August 9th, 4 heavy Allied cruisers sunk. The Marines were stranded, cut off from major resupply. However, the Japanese High Command failed to grasp one crucial fact: Henderson Field was the key to everything. Control of the airfield meant control of the surrounding seas during daylight hours. American aircraft, the Cactus Air Force, ruled the skies by dawn, rendering all Japanese daytime resupply attempts impossible. The Tenaru disaster, spirit versus firepower. Colonel Ichiki, driven by an impulsive confidence in the Japanese fighting spirit over American material, chose to attack immediately, disregarding clear orders to wait for the rest of his regiment. This proved fatal. On August 19th, a chance encounter between American and Japanese patrols led to the Marines capturing documents that revealed the scale and intent of Ichiki's S. For sand, their severe underestimation of American strength. General Alexander Vandegrift immediately prepared for the coming assault. He ordered Colonel Clifton B. Cates to reinforce the defenses along the sandbar at the mouth of the Alu River, misidentified as the Tenaru. Lieutenant Colonel Leonard Cresswell deployed the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, positioning M1917 A1 Browning water-cooled machine guns to create interlocking fields of fire across the sandbar. Just after midnight on August 21st, the attack began. Hundreds of Japanese soldiers charged across the sandbar, screaming battle cries, running directly into a meticulously prepared killing zone. The Browning machine guns, capable of sustaining 600 rounds per minute indefinitely, opened fire relentlessly. Japanese soldiers fell in waves. Those who made it past the heavy machine gun fire encountered 37mm anti-tank guns firing canister rounds, giant shotgun shells, turning the battle into a slaughter. By midday, the Battle of the Tenaru was over. Approximately 800 of the 917 Japanese soldiers who landed were dead. Marine casualties were light, approximately 40 killed and wounded. Ichiki's unit had been virtually annihilated in a single night. The psychological impact was devastating. The Americans had not panicked under a night assault. Instead, they had waited in prepared positions and systematically destroyed the attackers with concentrated superior firepower. The Browning machine guns never failed, and American troops seemed to carry more ammunition than entire Japanese squads. The myth of Japanese invincibility in close combat was shattered. Bloody Ridge, the failure of tactical superiority. The Japanese responded by pouring more troops onto the island via the Tokyo Express, landing nearly 5,000 men of Major General Kiyotake Kawaguchi's 35th Infantry Brigade. The logistical reality was harsh. The destroyers could move men, but not essential heavy equipment, particularly artillery and adequate food supplies. This logistical failure would ultimately doom the entire campaign. General Kawaguchi planned a more sophisticated three-pronged attack for September 12th, with the main effort targeting a ridge inland south of Henderson Field. Crucially, Marine intelligence, led by Lieutenant Colonel Merritt Edson, anticipated this approach. Edson positioned approximately 840 Marines from his Raiders and Parachute Battalion along the narrow coral spine, establishing defenses with meticulously coordinated machine gun fire, mortar, and support from the 11th Marines artillery. The fighting began on the night of September 12th. Unlike Ichiki's charge, Kawaguchi's forces attempted sophisticated infiltration through ravines. The combat was brutal, often hand-to-hand in the darkness, but the defensive preparations held. When Japanese forces massed for a breakthrough, the American artillery would obliterate them, firing over 2,000 rounds during the first night alone. Sergeant John Bacello became a legend here, single-handedly manning a critical machine gun position and fighting off successive Japanese waves. The attack lasted 2 nights. By dawn on September 14th, Kawaguchi's offensive had collapsed. Approximately 830 to 850 Japanese soldiers died on the ridge, which became known as Bloody Ridge or Edson's Ridge. The shock was repeated. The Japanese had expected to fight a close-quarters battle. Instead, faced a precise, coordinated system of artillery, machine guns, and mortars that they could not match. Death by starvation and disease. The role of logistics as the campaign wore on. The difference in logistics became the central executioner. The Americans, supply ships, protected by Henderson Field, delivered reliable food, ammunition, and medical supplies. Marines received adequate nutrition and medical care, including plasma, sulfa drugs, and proper evacuation. The Japanese, cut off from supply. Japanese soldiers were reduced to subsisting on a single rice ball per day and jungle foraging. Sickness was rampant. By late October, a Japanese medical report indicated over 60% of the 17th Army's forces were incapacitated by disease or malnutrition. Soldiers were dying at a rate of 50 per day, mostly from starvation and disease rather than combat wounds. The decisive blow came with the naval battle of Guadalcanal, November 12th to 15th, where the U.S. Navy sank Japanese warships and destroyed a crucial convoy, costing the Japanese over 5,000 troops and heavy equipment. This ended all serious attempts to reinforce the island with properly equipped forces. By December, the Japanese command was forced to decide on evacuation of the roughly 36,000 Japanese personnel who served on the island. Only about 11,000 remained, most too sick or weak to fight. In a masterful logistical retreat called Operation K, the Japanese Navy evacuated 10,652 men in early February 1943. The campaign's final toll was staggering. Japanese losses totaled 25,000 to 30,000 dead, primarily from battle, starvation, and disease. American losses were approximately 1,600 killed in action and 4,200 wounded. Guadalcanal was the first major American ground victory and a strategic turning point. It proved that Japanese tactical skill and spiritual power were meaningless against the systematic, relentless application of American industrial capacity, coordinated firepower, and robust logistics. The Japanese soldiers who survived were terrified not by American soldiers as individual fighters, but by the realization that courage and sacrifice were futile against an enemy whose supplies never ran out, whose artillery never stopped firing, and whose industrial base could replace losses faster than combat could inflict them.